Back where we're like, this is fun.
You're a winner.
You're a winner.
You're a winner.
That's a winner. Let's just sing the rest
Winning
of the
like
show.
winners do.
Get all sing-songy with it, right? So we can do. It's week 8 recap here on the Audible. Pats and Bills 24-21. So Buffalo gets that win, but it takes Cam Newton rumbling, bumbling, fumbling, and stumbling there at the end to basically seal the victory as the Patriots were this close. Okay, well, how'd they not do it? Well, Damian Harris wasn't part of the problem. 16 for 102 and a touchdown for Harris there. Cam Newton had a rushing touchdown, 54 yards on the ground, had 174 yards passing, no touchdowns, no INTs because the receivers stink. I don't care who you're depending on here. Jacoby Myers, 6 for 58. Demir Bird, 3 for 39. We know Julian Edelman's out, so, there's just nothing here. There's nothing here at all. So Cam, Harris, defense tried as much as they could, Bloom. But at the end of the day, Patriots fall short.
A few things to watch from this game. Not just this game. It was a tough weather day coming in. There were some games that we had high wind advisories, and if you decided, hey, this isn't a game to get cute with some down ticket plays in the passing game, then you were right. On the New England side, at least you saw Cam Newton bounce back. Cease. In the last couple of weeks, we were wondering, is something wrong with Cam Newton? This was a game where his running ability did make him a viable fantasy play again. You saw Jacoby Myers. It's funny to say he wasn't missing Julian Edelman because, as you called weeks ago, Edelman's been playing hurt on IR, and Myers can be that high floor PPR play that we thought that Edelman could be. Myers also got the 2-point conversion. Damian Harris running really strong in the second half of this game. And we saw in the blowout loss to the 49ers that the Patriots running game was getting on track. And 49ers not an easy run defense to crack. And we saw as the game went on, the Bills cracked more. And Harris came on. And the offenses warmed up in the second half of this one. James White did not. So some visions we had of James White becoming that Christian McCaffrey. There's nobody in the downfield passing game. Why shouldn't James White be catching 7, 8, 9 passes a game? I don't know. And the other thing, Cecil, we're going to see this as goes in the NFL, so in fantasy football. The biggest play of the game, Patriots were driving. They were inside the 20. They were going to get either a tying field goal or maybe win the game. And remember, we talked about this one coming in that the Bills assert their domination, supremacy in the division, and they didn't really, and they really could have even lost this game at home. But it was Justin Zimmer making the strip, Dean Marlowe making the recovery. So just like in fantasy football, those last few guys on your roster making a play can be the difference. This one was one of many games that hung in the balance until the end. And New England, is their season lost? Not totally, but probably. But they can face the Jets, who's more lost than they are.
Yes, don't ask them for directions. And the Bills, well, the direction they're in is recovering. You could make the argument, well, how good are the Patriots really? All right, that's fine. But this was a big, proverbial monkey off the back of the Buffalo Bills. Because what's Belichick against the Bills lifetime? 15-5?
Right.
Whatever the number is, it's complete dominance. Well, they didn't really dominate through the air, not much. Mostly on the ground. Let's get to it. 11-18. 154 yards, no touchdowns, 1 INT for Josh Allen. Stephon Diggs, 6 for 92. It's enough, especially in PPR. Don't get greedy. Cole Beasley, only 2 for 24. Oh, Smoke Brown, throw him in. What the heck, flex? 1 for 21. Okay, well, Devin Singletary, 14 for 86, and then 1 for 6 as a receiver. Zach Moss's day, 14 for 81, 2 rushing touchdowns for Moss. And then Josh Allen with the rushing touchdown there as well. So, again, lots of groundwork. The Patriots' rush defense is their Achilles heel. Buffalo took advantage of that, meaning that, well, Josh Allen only had to throw it 18 times, and they still get the win.
Yeah, you take Josh Allen for cold weather, Cease, right? Throw it through the wind. No, the running game. It was the signature running game performance. It was Devin Singletary. It was Zach Moss. And what you have here is a Patriots defense. We saw the 49ers, Jeff Wilson, before he got hurt, run all over them last week. It was the Bills running all over them this week. You see Stephon Diggs, and Stephon Diggs making a statement. You just don't bench him, no matter what the situation is, no matter what the weather is. He can come through. Nobody else does, even though John Brown was out there in this one. Zach Moss getting the 2 touchdowns. One he glided in, and I'll say his burst looks better than I expected. The other one was a rugby scrum where his teammates basically pushed him in. Josh Allen got a rushing touchdown to salvage something. Gabriel Davis dropped one, or it could have been a better day for him. And, are the Bills good? I still don't know. Are they the leading team in the division? Yes. But the whole time they were focused on New England, Cease, we'll talk a little later, Miami saying, hey, don't forget about us. And the Bills are going to have a yardstick game to measure themselves against Seattle next week. So how can this team operate in a quarterback duel? We know this defense isn't necessarily defining games for them. How can Josh Allen do against Russell Wilson? Get the popcorn out.
Get your popcorn ready, because here's the Dolphins side, Bloom. And honestly, I'm really disappointed by this game. Now, 28-17, the final score. Dolphins get the win over the LA Rams. I'm mainly disappointed because we didn't get to see much of Tua, because we didn't have to. Let's talk Rams first. Jared Goff, 355, 1 touchdown, 2 INTs. Cooper Kupp, 11 for 110. Robert Woods, 7 for 85 and a touch. Josh Reynolds, 4 for 44. Gerald Everett, 5 for 32. Tyler Higbee back, 2 for 14, nothing. Darrell Henderson, 8 for 47. Okay. Malcolm Brown, 10 for 40. It was Robert Woods with a rushing touchdown. So here you go. Rams fumbling, bumbling themselves and falling short.
This is one where fantasy football skews the vision because Goff threw the ball, 61 times. For fantasy, he wasn't a complete disaster, but for NFL football, he was. He was a total disaster.
Yeah.
I think 4 turnovers, and the game was basically decided. So, okay, sure. Robert Woods had a good game. The easy score on the jet sweep, getting some fed in the passing game. Cooper Kupp getting fed in the passing game. You did see Tyler Higbee active for this one. Gerald Everett did a little bit. Darrell Henderson, thigh injury. So we see some Cam Akers, of course, some Malcolm Brown. Rams going into their bye. You're not sure what to say. Last week, Goff finally put together a good game against the Bears, which was a team that really owned him. So you thought, okay, Goff maybe not so scary in the bad matchups. I don't even know if this was a bad matchup, but boy, he made them look like the 85 Bears in this one for a while. And see, so look at the bye. After the bye, Seattle, Tampa, San Francisco, and Arizona. We're going to know where we stand with this Rams team after those 4 games.
And you may not like it.
No.
Right in the middle of a sip of my cappuccino. And it's 6 o'clock here at night in the Mile High City, actually in beautiful Roxborough on the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
And I'm drinking cappuccino because I want to.
Yeah.
And also it's going to be a super late night. Mm-hmm. Broncos show.
Dave, yeah.
I just wanted to see more of Tua, man.
Yeah.
I just wanted, and it was 12 of 22, 93 yards and 1 touchdown, which was, what was that touchdown? Like 2 yards, whatever it was. Like, okay, Devontae Parker, 1 catch, 3 yards, 1 touchdown. There you go. So, I mean, there's really nothing. I could go Durham Smythe, 2 for 16. Miles got blah, 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 blah. Preston Williams, 2 for 15. Because I wanted to know, right? We talked about in the preview show, who does he prefer? Who's his struggle target? Does he trust this guy's deep? Yeah. And he didn't need to. You're scoring with your defense. You're scoring with your rushing attack. Miles Gaskin with a rushing touchdown. So, like, they win, and it's a big win, and Tua gets his first win and his first touchdown. But from a fantasy lens, we didn't learn shut your mouth today.
We didn't. Jakeem Grant had the first punt return touchdown of the season for anybody. You saw Andrew Van Ginkel. He was the other guy with TJ Watt, when Wisconsin was rushing the passer. He's the other pincher. He had a big game in this one with the touchdown after the sack. We saw Christian Wilkins get an interception in this one. Emmanuel Ogbah, by the way, with the sack to force the fumble that turned into the touchdown. So they're getting a lot of good play out of him. Again, see, the Dolphins are an organization. They're elevating the play of their players. They're getting good play out of players that other organizations were not able to get. Gaskin, still not exactly chewing up yards, but he also had a fumble in this one, but he did get the rushing touchdown, set up basically at the 1-yard line by another interception. It was either an interception or a punt return. A fumble return. It's Tua. Let's get to Tua. Tua comes out there right away. Aaron Donald says, "Nice to meet you," and it separates him from the ball. And it looks rough. Honestly, Tua looked a little rough early. Then he starts to settle down. There's an absolute dime, as the kids say, to Mike Gesicki, who can't bring it in. You did see nice on the touchdown. Devontae Parker was interfered with. He still stuck it right in there. Where Parker almost had no choice but to catch it. His body, that was going to leave a bruise somewhere on his body. So you like seeing that. You see some mobility from Tua. He didn't look overwhelmed. He did settle down. They didn't need him. So now you're looking at Miami, whether it's pushing the Bills or pushing for a wild card spot. You thought, okay, Ryan Fitzpatrick sitting means let's evaluate Tua. It means they're not really going for it. I mean, the defense and special teams said, what do you mean? We're going for it. They're going to Arizona next week. And this is fun because if they go to Arizona, Tua and Kyler Murray, future of the NFL, if they go to Arizona and win, that means they'll be 3-1 against the NFC West, which is a division that we've talked about sending all 4 teams to the playoffs. And remember, that Seattle game, I think, was 17-15 at one point. If Fitzpatrick had been able to get more touchdowns instead of settling for field goals, that one could have been interesting. So, yeah, this Miami team has arrived. Their franchise quarterback has arrived. And, again, another popcorn game next week with Miami heading out to Arizona.
Miami Dolphins. Exciting times. But, Bloom, I've often said it. The Steelers could go 2-14 every year, and I would be happy as long as the 2 were against the Ratbirds. I did a show with Brandon Stokely this week, and I was like, you realize we have to hate each other this week, right? Because you're a Ratbird. You scored a touchdown in a Super Bowl with the Ratbirds, with the Ravens, in the worst Super Bowl ever. Super Bowl 35 is so damn boring. But Steelers, Ravens, Steelers undefeated, right? I got my buddy Pittsburgh D. He keeps texting me like, what do you think of Mike Tomlin now? And I always text him back like, win another ring. My main problem with Mike Tomlin is he coaches them down to their competition. He lets teams that aren't any good hang with them. And then he's got 1 ring. Come on now. Come on. So excited about this start. Excited on this holding on. 28-24 marching back in the second half with those 21 second half points, 14 in the third quarter, getting the win 28-24. Biggity Ben Roethlisberger, 21-32, 182 yards, 2 touchdowns, no INTs. This is just how he's going to be, Bloom. This is how he's just going to be out there and like, what? I'm going to take short stuff and let my guys work after the catch? Sure. Juju Smith-Schuster, 7 for 67. Such effort. Eric Ebron, 4 for 48 in that touchdown where nobody covered him. Chase Claypool, 5 for 42, was bracketed, 1 touchdown. Bracketed, still gets the touchdown. A special kid. Special. Deontay Johnson throwing fists, right? Right out there throwing fisticuffs. Deontay Johnson, but a catch for 6 yards. So you might have fisticuffs in your league against yourself because you started him. James Conner, 1 rushing touchdown, 47 yards on the ground, also 3 for 13 as a receiver. So it was ugly. It was physical. There was fighting. Steelers win means I'm happy.
Yeah, see, such a typical Steelers-Ravens game, which means it was a classic, which means we saw players both expected and unexpected putting their stamp on this incredible rivalry. Cease, in the Super Bowl era, the most common opponent my brain isn't even working because I'm thinking about this game because I was sweating. Woo! We were sweating this one. 25 times now, Tomlin and Harbaugh have faced. The most in the Super Bowl era of any 2 head coaches. Can you believe that?
Oh, very good.
Putting this one into the Hall of Fame, this matchup. And much like a typical Steelers-Raven game, Cease, it's almost like a fight, like the old Apollo Rocky, and both guys are on the canvas at the end, and you get up and you're like, did I win? Hey, Adrian, did we win? That's how this game was. And that's how a Steelers-Ravens game usually is. That's how you know it's a good one. Roethlisberger, as you said, Cease, taking what the defense gave him, and this is a tough defense. So that's not exactly irrational. For fantasy, it didn't exactly float your boat. This offense was really dead on arrival in the first half. This game opens up with Robert Spillane. And see, seriously, like going into the season, even us diehard Steelers fans, you say, Robert Spillane, like, who? I mean,
Right.
Ulysses Gilbert was the guy that's the number 3 inside linebacker. But Spillane puts his stamp on the game right away. With a pick 6. You also had Chase Claypool fumbling in this one. Deontay Johnson, a non-factor with a hamstring, barely targeted. Was he even targeted in this one? But as you said, Claypool growing up in this one, and he plays with a lot of emotion. He plays with a lot of swag, and he earned his swag in this one, in his welcome to this rivalry. Eric Ebron, he didn't drop it, Cease. It was easy.
It was wide open.
He made it look easy. Yeah, and he caught a few key passes for Roethlisberger. And then you saw it was Juju Smith-Schuster making a lot of tough catches in the middle of the field, taking punishment. Juju's tough. He is no finesse player. And he's making some high ward kind of catches where he knew he was going to take hits. And this offense was resilient. In the second half, things started coming to them, and they had to grind out drives. This Ravens defense is good. This is a complete team, this Ravens team. And it was the defense, Minkah Fitzpatrick, holding on at the end. And yes, Cease, Ben did have to dink and dunk in this one. Next week, facing the Cowboys, I think they'll be dunking, but not with the dinking.
It'll look like the Ben of old. And this reminds me so much of 2015 Broncos. Because, Ben's just kind of, he's got old man game, right? Like, it's old. It's a different Ben.
Experience.
It's Big Ben, maybe even a little larger, but it's like, it's just different now. And that's fine. If they get another ring, then that's all that matters. By the way, you mentioned rookie Chase Claypool. I'll give you another rookie who karate chopped his way into that interception, Alex Highsmith.
Yes.
I loved him at the Shrine game. Where's Jason at so we can take a bong rip? Like, loved Alex Highsmith and that weird flying spin chop move that he does. Mm-hmm. And then it's like Lamar Jackson tried to float that pass over. You're not getting that over Alex Highsmith. No, he's going to climb that ladder. It's what he did. Couple of picks for Lamar Jackson. Couple of touchdowns for Lamar Jackson. One of Miles Boykin, 2 for 20 and a touch on the day. And then Marquise Brown, 1 for 3 and a touch there. Willie Snead, 5 for 106. And it was that Snead pass at the end that was broken up. And Snead was regularly wide open in the middle of the field. So got to go back and watch the all 22 when that comes out, Bloom, and be like, what the hell was going on with this defense? Because everything in the middle was wide open. It was a big day for Willie Snead, who certainly told you about how great he was after every single catch. It's like, dude, come on. You're Willie Snead, bro. Dial it down a little bit. Man, get a win. Mark Andrews, 3 for 32. So it was going to be tough. It was going to be physical. And the Ravens fall short. Oh, by the way, I forgot to talk about Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins.
Yes.
Hey, J.K. Dobbins, finally. But, Bloom, here's the thing. It's 15 carries for J.K., 16 carries for Gus, 16 carries for Lamar Jackson. Like, J.K. Dobbins could do more. He could. And he had 113 yards today.
Yeah. Really a game that the Ravens may look back and say, how did we lose this one? Well, I mean, they know how they lost it. It was 4 turnovers from Lamar Jackson. And, that's the thing. It's a nail biter in the Steelers. And not just that, they stopped Jackson on a 4th down inside the 5 to set up potentially clinching the game, but had punted away. And then Jackson moved them down to have another shot at the end of the game. It was a pass into the middle of the end zone. And Minkah Fitzpatrick broke it up. But it was, even with the 4 turnovers, it was there for the Ravens. And Jackson couldn't do it. And, do you feel better or worse about Lamar Jackson? I mean, look, the Steelers have his number in the sense that the Steelers understand that you press the issue with him. He's a frantic thinker when he's under pressure, little shades of Robert Griffin III, If he gets out of the pocket, if he escapes, oh, man, you're scared. But if you can keep him in the pocket and make him make decisions quickly, good things can happen for your defense. And when he's thinking, when that clock is ticking, you see them getting home on the pass rush. You had 2 fumbles forced in this one, and you had 2 interceptions. And like we've been talking about already, Justin Zimmer, Robert Spillane, Dean Marlowe, Alex Highsmith, a rookie, making plays, and we're only in week 8. This isn't even the war attrition part of the season. You had the running game. The Steelers don't get gashed like this on the ground, not even against the Ravens. Cam Hayward looked pretty wore out in this one. Stephon Tuitt didn't. So you wonder now, there's talk that Mark Ingram might be out next week. Hey, let Ingram get to 110%. He just can't do what J.K. Dobbins can do. J.K. Dobbins, I'm trying to think of who to even to compare him to, like Arian Foster. He's just so flexible He's solid, he's strong, he's got burst and agility, but he's so flexible. There's so many times that you think he's down, and he spins and gets 3 or 4 more yards, or wriggles out of some contact or through some contact. He's going to be so much fun to watch. Gus Edwards, just downhill, getting the touchdown, and the running game was working. In fact, going away from the running game early in the third quarter maybe got this game off course for the Ravens. Minion Hunter asked me to bring that up. Absolutely. You did see Snead running free in the middle of the field, and the Steelers pass defense for you. Boykin had a touchdown, not much after that. He had it early in the game. Hollywood Brown saying something on Twitter, I think it was deleted already, to the effect of, like, why aren't you going to use these soldiers? If you have the soldiers, why aren't you going to use them? You never use them. So some cracks showing here, some frustration maybe for Hollywood Brown. Mark Andrews not doing much here. At least Marquise Brown did get a score right after he almost got a score. Jackson did have a long touchdown run called back in this one, by the way, or it could have been one of those bonanza type fantasy days. So I don't know, Cease. I mean, as a Steelers fan, you got the win. You went into Baltimore and you got the win. Does anything else even matter?
No.
But at the same time, unless the defense forces all of these turnovers and makes a play twice in the waning minutes, they don't get the win. So, I mean, until we meet again, Thanksgiving. It's November. Thanksgiving night, main course.
Yeah. I wonder if I'll have indigestion after that game.
Yeah. And by the way, Baltimore going to Indy next week. That's going to be an interesting matchup.
Indy's very interesting. We're going to get to them in a few games. We got the interesting Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah.
31-20. The final score. What? Cincy? Where the hell did this come from? I'll take it. We'll get to the Cincy side in a little bit, but let's talk about Ryan Tannehill. He's out there. He's dealing. 18 of 30, 233 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 INTs. Corey Davis, 8 for 128 and 1. And is he Devontae Parker-ish, Bloom? Meaning one of those first-round picks are like, this guy can't play. Oh, wait. No, he can. Yeah. Yes, he can. 8 for 28 and 1 touchdown. A.J. Brown, 4 for 24 and 1 touchdown. Anthony Firkser, 2 catches, 36 yards. Jonnu Smith, 2 catches, 29 yards. Oh. And then Derrick Henry, of course, doing Derrick Henry things. 18 for 112 and 1 rushing touchdown. So they fall short. Couple of assets to go over. But everyone took a bloodbath today, right? Because of all your pick'ems and I'm going to pick the games. And yeah, everyone had Tennessee.
You wonder about Tennessee. Again, they played 3 weeks ago on a Tuesday against the Bills.
Mm-hmm. How good are the Bills? How good are the Titans?
Right.
They barely beat the Broncos in week 1.
Right. And then they play an overtime game against the Texans. And then they play a game against the Steelers last week that goes down to the final play. And you just wonder, Cease, if they're kind of like a racehorse right now where you're giving them the whip and there's just not a kick right now.
And that's for timing of the feet, as I've often told you. It does nothing to actually hurt their skin. It's for timing up their gait. Mm-hmm.
Yes. There's another animal ethics and sports podcast that we can do. You just wonder, Tennessee's offense, and what we're doing here is some rethinking with Corey Davis looking so good. And again, I'll point out, I can't remember who it was now that pointed this out first, that Corey Davis is an anagram for COVID's year. So he's actually been a good play every time he's been on the field. And Derrick Henry looked good. They were just playing from behind all day. So he couldn't get up to 25, 30 carries and really put his stamp on this game. A.J. Brown didn't look as sharp, had a drop. And it's a low volume pass offense to begin with. Because when things are on track for this team, they don't want to throw the ball more than 20 or 25 times. So it makes you wonder about A.J. Brown's ceiling. It makes you wonder about the ceiling for this whole passing game. Jonnu Smith. I mean, at this point, Jonnu Smith's kind of on the probation list where we're not starting him until he goes off on our bench. Because even though he had all those touchdowns to open the season, again, if Corey Davis is doing his thing and they're only throwing the ball 25 times a game, how much is there for Jonnu Smith? And again, you have this Titans team, and see such a terrific examples. Now we're in that center segment of the NFL calendar where you can look back just a couple of weeks ago. They're an undefeated team. They easily could have beaten the Steelers last week. Came into this week undefeated. Well, instead, now you're 5-2. Now Indianapolis is feeling really good about themselves, coming up behind you, and they got to play a Bears team that just somehow finds a way to stay in games no matter how badly they play or how badly their quarterback is playing. So it's all delicate. Nothing is promised in the NFL, and Cincinnati was there to remind Tennessee of that. And we've come full circle with Joe Burrow, Cecil, where we're like worried about him. Oh man, were you worried about him going into this one? Who would have thought that having 4 starters out on the offensive line is just what this offense needed?
Just the elixir that she needed. JMA doesn't want us to sing anymore.
Oh,
It's
don't.
fine.
Yeah.
It's
Now
fine.
you really.
Unless it's Tenacious D. And it's Halloween. And I've been drinking once in a blue moon. Joe Burrow didn't get sacked, dude. Like, I was so worried. I was like, please, Hammer, don't hurt him. Like, please, Joe Burrow, just survive this game and season. And he didn't get sacked at all today. 26 of 37, 249 yards, 2 touchdowns, no INTs. Touchdowns go to Tyler Boyd, 6 for 67 and a touch. And Giovanni Bernard, 3 for 16 and a touch as a receiver, 15 for 62 and a rushing touchdown. Samaje Perine. Oh, how I love to motorboat Samaje Perine at OU. Boomer Sooner. He gets a rushing touchdown. Obviously, no Joe Mixon in this game. T. Higgins goes 6 for 78 in this contest. Auden Tate, 7 for 65. AJ Green, 2 for 19. Oh, so Cincinnati gets a big win in interesting ways, Bloom.
Yeah, let's remember this team was up, 21-0 on Indianapolis?
Mm-hmm.
It is the year of big comebacks. So, again, you look at the AFC South, your 2 top teams are Indy and Tennessee. The Bengals beat Tennessee and all but beat Indy. So that shows you where they're at on schedule. They have their quarterback. They're not tanking for anything. They're trying to show they're a winning team. And they got some breaks early. You saw a doink from Steven Gostkowski, and you saw an interception from Tannehill, and that gave them opportunity to open a lead. And then every time the Titans tightened it up, Burrow made plays, offense made plays, and they won this one kind of comfortably, again, with 4 offensive line starters out, and they're one of the worst offensive lines in the league to begin with. It was the best offensive line performance in the passing game on the day. You saw Samaje Perine get the touchdown early in the game. Started Giovanni Bernard. This is fantasy first world problems, right? Like, And by the way, Samaje Perine scores in the same game that Dante Foreman gets back on the field for the Titans. Has a few runs and looks okay. You see in this passing game, you have Higgins making some plays downfield. And this was a semi-wind game. It wasn't as much of a wind advisory as the games basically right on the shores of the Great Lakes. But it was still a wind game. But you saw Burrow really using the whole field. Higgins making so many plays, including a 4th down. Tyler Boyd, so dependable, getting a touchdown here. Auden Tate. So we're seeing now the big, long receivers. It's been A.J. Green in the short range stuff for a few weeks. This week it's Auden Tate. Auden Tate also making some big plays. And it team's going into their bye feeling good, feeling like they're on schedule. They have something to rally around. Joe Burrow is on pace to be the all-time leading rookie passer. And over the last 10 years, we've seen some good rookie passers, at least in terms of production. And it was, it's like he was dealt a deck that was like missing face cards. You know what I mean? He didn't have a lot to work with, at least on the offensive line. So it's going to be a fun team to watch as we go into the second half of the year, a team that is seeming to enjoy the spoiler role.
Spoilers, if you pick the Browns today, 16-6, the final score is the Raiders get the win. And it's just kind of, okay, lots of Josh Jacobs, not a lot of anybody else. Derek Carr goes 112 yards, 1 touchdown, no INT. Touchdown to Hunter Renfrow, 4 for 26 in the touch. Darren Waller gets 5 catches, 28 yards. And just, Nelson Aguilar, I can trust Nelson Aguilar, 2 targets, no catches. You can trust Josh Jacobs, 31 for 128. So it was like a win against Cleveland, but it wasn't a win for your fantasy team outside of Jacobs getting those yardage, Bloom. There wasn't a lot here.
The autumn wind is a raider, pillaging just for fun. Autumn wind, they ride in, and the Raiders are announcing that they're a contender. This was a game to see who's going to start jockeying for position in the wild card race, and the Raiders get a win. And this isn't necessarily a win their way with the vertical passing game. They're not a shutdown defensive team, but they did what they needed to do. Hunter Renfrow getting the 1 touchdown. And look, this is one where you have to not hold against these results against the players in the win games. Okay, so yes, it's going to be a common refrain in this one. Really, no one in the passing game came through for us on either side. But this is the kind of thing that we'll keep in mind as we look for wind advisories going forward. You did see Josh Jacobs. You knew it was going to be a Josh Jacobs game when you saw the wind advisory. He did get to 30 carries. He did give the team everything he got. And Devontae Booker's looking good, by the way. He's looking better than he ever did as a Bronco. 3 times in a row, Cleveland did stop Jacobs at the goal line, or it could have been a big one. Nelson Aguilar, he finally gets into our good graces again. He gets onto fantasy rosters, maybe a few lineups. I mean, it's not his fault. Right. Next week, this is supposed to be the 3-4 Chargers against the 4-3 Raiders, old AFL shootout, 45-42 kind of game. We may still get that kind of game. The Chargers made it less interesting for playoff implications, so that's going to be much more entertaining than this one was.
Yeah, Brown side of things, Baker the Baby Maker, 12 of 25, 122 yards, no touchdowns, no INTs. Jarvis Landry, 4 for 52 and a touchdown. That was a touchdown, Bloom. Don't you think that was a touchdown?
So. I thought so.
I mean, come on. We can get all nitpicky all day long, but like Jarvis Landry makes an amazing catch, amazing effort, falls to the ground. I guess the ball moved like a little bit. Aren't we over that? Didn't we already get past that where it's like he's still holding on
Bert
to
Emanuel rule, right?
Yeah, but like it's okay. You're like, whatever. And I don't even have any Landry stock. Summer stock. 4 for 52 for Landry. David Njoku, 1 for 19. Harrison Bryant, 3 for 25. Rashard Higgins, 1 for 14. Just nothing here. Kareem Hunt, 14 carries, 66 yards. Couple catches, 7 yards. Not much for the Browns as they can't get much going against the Raiders today.
And it was against the Bengals defense last week that Baker Mayfield looked like Russell Wilson. And he looked like Baker Mayfield this week. I mean, it was the win, too. Harrison Bryant had a fumble here. Austin Hooper should be back after the bye. Kareem Hunt gave the team some valiant efforts. They just couldn't really get drives going in this one. They did have the touchdown wiped off the board. Jarvis Landry, and you can tell Jarvis Landry's not even close to 100% right now. But he's summoning up everything he has for this team. He's doing it, and it was a shame to see that wiped off the board. Just keep that in mind when they face some easier matchups, and they do get some easier matchups coming out of the bye. So yes, you lose to the Raiders. Yes, you lose to a team that's going to be vying for a playoff spot, 6th, 7th playoff spot with you. However, Cleveland, relax. You got Houston, Philadelphia, and Jacksonville after the bye. So keep beating teams you're supposed to beat. And keep staying in the playoff race.
And fantasy GMs know that it's a time to buy low. Yeah. If someone dumps Rashard Higgins or something like that, like, oh, yeah. And Nick Chubb will be back. So maybe somebody does something weird with Kareem Hunt. I don't know. The Kansas City, I know they're really good. 35-9, the final score. Le'Veon Bell revenge was almost as bad as Melvin Gordon revenge on Sunday. 35-9. But the Jets side of things, Sam Darnold, is he getting traded or not? 18 of 30, 133 yards, no touchdowns, no INTs. Denzel Mims, 2 for 42. He's got some fight in him, Bloom. Braxton Berrios, 8 for 34 in this one. Frank Gore, 10 for 30 on the ground. I mean, it's just nothing here to talk about except Mims. I mean, I'm watching Mims every week and his fight, but not much else from the Jets.
No, it was 14-9 at one point. I mean, actually, Castillo, their kicker, was their star, and they made it competitive. But you could just sense, it was like the game against the Texans when Chiefs fell down, 24-0 in that game. But you just look at Patrick Mahomes, you look at the team, like, they're not worried. Not worried. I mean, come on, guys, don't worry. We're going to cover the spread. We're going to be okay. Denzel Mims made a few plays early. Braxton Berrios getting a lot of catches for not very many yards. In PPR as a desperation play, he came through for you, and, well, that is it. And don't you just get the feeling that Adam Gase, when we heard that stern message, he's going to remain the coach for the rest of the season. It really is, whether intentional or not, it has to be intentional, right? To go to 0-16. I mean, we see when these teams ding dong, the witch is dead, they get a boost of adrenaline. They often win that first game. They even change their character as a team if they just get out from under the thumb of the coach that's holding them back. He's probably not going anywhere because they're staying on track for that 0-16 start. Who's going to be the new head coach? Joe Brady? I see that one a lot. I don't know. But I do know that this Jets team could not compete with the Chiefs today.
Could not compete, and basically we saw more Kansas City experimenting. But before that, we saw Pat Mahomes 416 and 5 touchdowns. Yeah. Travis Kelce, 8 for 109 and a touch. Tyreek Hill, 4 for 98 and 2 touch. And did I see correctly, Bloom? He is tied with Randy Moss for the most touchdowns.
40 plus.
40 yards or more. And think about that. Tyreek Hill is not even close to being done.
No.
Not even close. And we're talking about Randy Moss.
Right.
All right. Yoy. Okay. There you go. McCole Hardman, 7 for 96 and a touch. DeMarcus Robinson, 4 for 63 and a touch. This is an Oprah game, right? Like, look under your seat. Oh, you got a touchdown. You get it. Blah, 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 blah. Except for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, right. 6 for 21. Le'Veon Bell, 6 for 7. What? Le'Veon Bell, 3 for 31 as a receiver as well. Edwards-Helaire had 3 for 10. Okay, so some good, some bad. You put them both together, and there you have Chiefs and Steelers in the AFC Championship. I don't know.
Long way to go between here and there, but the Chiefs, just looks easy. Looks easy for Patrick Mahomes. There's one of the weirdest shovel passes. He zips it underhanded like a softball pitcher on the one to Kelce. Hardman, it was just a little toss. I mean, some of these touchdowns weren't exactly Patrick Mahomes' best passes. One of them was just a little patty cake one to Hardman. Really nice deep ball to Robinson. Nice deep balls to a nice deep ball to Hill. And Mahomes just makes it look easy because for him it is easy, especially when he's facing the Jets. You did see Hardman get a little banged up at the end of this one. It's still out there because technically he's a backup, although he's still a core piece of this offense. And yes, no revenge game. And even if you went with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, nothing there. But if there is such a thing as a teeth to this Jets defense, it is the running game. So in some ways, you want to say hats off to Andy Reid for only running the ball, 12 times? Because that's what you should do.
Right.
Why? I mean, you're throwing plays away. I mean, I know they've given up some big plays in the run game, but when you have Patrick Mahomes, that's rational. So I know it was disappointing if you played Bell or Edwards-Helaire because you thought there was going to be some rushing touchdowns here, or at least a chance in the second half to rack up some yards against a defense that is looking to go home, get some dinner reservations or something. Carolina coming next week, so Carolina took that loss to open this week against Atlanta. And it's not exactly looking up for them having to go to Kansas City.
Oh, boy. How we love to talk about the National Football League. And this one was a scorcher for the Colts. Oh, my God. Cue up the preview show, Bloom, where I was like, Colts offense puts me to sleep.
The Delusional Bowl.
The Delusional Bowl. 41 Colts, 21 Lions. Huh. Okay, Phillip Rivers, 262 yards, 3 touchdowns, no INTs. Nyheim Hines goes ham. Sorry, Joe. 3 for 54, 2 touchdowns as a receiver. Also 5 for 8 as a rusher because they count. Jack Doyle, 2 for 18 and a receiving touchdown. Zach Pascal, 3 for 44. Marcus Johnson, 2 for 39. Mo Alley Cox, 3 for 37. Huh? Well, Jordan Wilkins gets 20 carries, 89 yards. And then 1 rushing touchdown. Jonathan Taylor, 11 for 22. By the way, Michael Pittman was out there, 1 for 6. Yep. But anyway, T.Y. Hilton leaves. What was it, groin? Is that right? Groin injury, 2 for 9 before he exits the building. And the Colts score 41, the proverbial 40 burger. And they do it in a really weird way. And guys that you would start, like T.Y. Hilton or Jonathan Taylor, did nothing.
Nothing. Ooh, this one's going to have some controversy in fantasy football world. Rivers was fine. One of the touchdowns was all Nyheim Hines. By the way, it was Nyheim Hines week. I guess we got to schedule like every 2 months, Cease. Maybe come week 15 or 16, it'll be a Nyheim Hines week again. And he didn't exactly have a huge opportunity, but he made it work once. He had a spin and stayed in bounds and fell into the end zone, dove into the end zone. Another one, basically a go route as a wide receiver that he won. That was a good throw by Rivers. And of course, you got to throw one to a tight end here. And you saw Trey Burton score as a runner again. And you saw Mo Alley Cox get enough catches, 3 for 37, to say, we'll keep him in the conversation as desperation play. You love the way he plays. Not much from the wide receivers. As T.Y. Hilton goes out, not that T.Y. Hilton was affecting games. You saw Ashton Doolin in there, small school, high-speed guy getting a long pass interference penalty. You saw Marcus Johnson making another long catch. Zach Pascal doing some things here. There's not going to be someone to make a play here out of this wide receiver group, but they're helping Phillip Rivers. Maybe not next week against Baltimore. Again, really interesting game. The backfield, leaving Nyheim Hines out of it because what he did as a receiver. Jonathan Taylor just doesn't look good. He just doesn't look like Jordan Wilkins looks better. And kudos to the Colts and Frank Reich for saying, well, we're going to play the guy in the second half who's playing better. It's probably hot hand. I mean, I don't think this is a reshuffling of this backfield. I don't think we go into next week against Baltimore thinking Jordan Wilkins is the starter, Jordan Wilkins is the lead back. But we're more open to it. Remember, at first, it was closer to a Taylor-Wilkins committee, and Wilkins was running well. Now, Wilkins injury prone, so who knows how long it'll last. But are you even starting Jonathan Taylor against Baltimore next week? I'm probably not. And if you watch this game, you would not have Taylor as the second round pick, near first round pick, and Wilkins as the late third day pick. Wilkins looked better. So that's going to be something that is really going to add some static for the rest of the year as we try to get a read on this backfield. But Indy, we've seen them, the stirring comeback win against Indy. That's nothing to be proud of. Well, maybe after Cincinnati beat Tennessee thoroughly, it is. Because, when we look back at the end of the year and we see who wins the division, it's often the difference who beat Cincinnati, Right. And now this team has some momentum. And boy, do they have some momentum on defense.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Nyheim Hines is like the Marvin Jones Jr. of running backs.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess it's a Marvin Jones Jr. week. Kenny Golladay leaves this game with an injury. Bloom, give us the latest there. 4 targets, no catches for Golladay. Ouch. Marvin Jones Jr., 3 for 39 and 2 touchdowns. Matthew Stafford tossing 3 touchdowns, 336 yards and a pick. The other touchdown goes to Kerryon Johnson, 2 for 15 and 1 receiving touchdown for Kerryon. And then, they had 29 yards rushing as a team. So when you're down 20 to 7.5, you're not going to run the ball. No. They didn't run the ball. DeAndre Swift did nothing. 3 for 22 as a receiver and 6 carries for 1 yard. That's it. Marvin Hall, nobody started him, 4 for 113. TJ Hawkinson, 7 for 65. All right. Danny Amendola, 3 for 54. I still get notes. It's Danny, jerk. Yeah, I got it. The Lions, though, and Matt Patricia, let's make a move. Let's make some trades. Where's my new number 2 pencil? You got no win.
No. And that's the thing I was thinking about during this game, Cease. They went into the bye as buyers. Mm-hmm. Or not the buy. They went into going to the trade line and getting Everson Griffin, and they just got blown off of their home field. Matthew Stafford had a good fantasy game. Maybe you want the Lions to play badly for Stafford to have his best fantasy days. Golladay gets hurt. It's a hip injury. You left the game pretty early. We'll see. Next week, Detroit goes to Minnesota. You would hate to miss Golladay for that one. Jones, he wasn't dominant. He got the 2 touchdowns. One was off a blocked punt. The other one was set up by a long Marvin Hall reception. And, Marvin Hall doing some Jalen Guyton kind of stuff for this offense and getting more opportunity. Kerryon Johnson lives. Not on our rosters, but hey, you just feel bad. It's like a Sonny Michel situation. We're never going to see the player he could have been. Indianapolis' run defense is one that so Baltimore run game, Indianapolis run defense. Quienes más macho next week. But we saw DeAndre Swift, no macho man there for your lineup. You did see TJ Hawkinson get his catches in bunches at the end of the first half. He could have been a lot bigger factor in this game, honestly, even though 7 for 65 sounds pretty good to you. And they were buyers. See, they're looking at the schedule. They're like, Indianapolis at home, we can handle that. Minnesota can handle that. Not so fast. Minnesota, not exactly an easy team to handle at this point.
I know, Minnesota. It's like, what's going on there with that stuff and those guys? And 28-22? What? I thought Green Bay was going to roll in this one. All right, 28-22, Vikings over the Packers, and Kirk Cousins goes 160 yards, 1 touchdown, no INTs. Well, what happened? Lots and lots and lots and lots. Dalvin Cook, he's back, 30 for 163 and 3 touchdowns. But he's not done yet. 2 for 63 and a receiving touchdown. All the touchdowns. So if you had Adam Thielen, 3 for 27. If you had Justin Jefferson, 3 for 26. Irv Smith, Kyle Rudolph aren't doing anything, and nobody rosters Chad Beebe. So this is what happens when you can run the ball, when you can harass Aaron Rodgers enough, and you can get the win. And, man, is Dalvin Cook special?
Yeah. They were right to pay him. They were right to make a statement that this is a guy that makes our offense go. It took a while. And see, can't you just picture Mike Zimmer? There's such a psychological element to this game. Can't you just picture Mike Zimmer saying that this is a soft team? This Packers team can be beat. You're in the corner, about to ring the bell, start the fight. Manager's rubbing their shoulders, telling you like they don't like to get punched in the face. They can't handle it. And you saw as the game went on. I think that there's a book on Green Bay, and they can't handle Dalvin Cook. They can't handle run defense. And see, we took the Packers to the woodshed because they didn't draft a wide receiver, right? But they also didn't help out the run defense. They did nothing to help out the run defense in the draft. And that is coming back to haunt them more than the lack of a receiver. It was all Dalvin Cook. I mean, really, Cecil, we may say, oh, today the offense was all this player. But really, Dalvin Cook runs. Dalvin Cook on a screen pass. Interestingly, by the way, Jair Alexander won't have Adam Thielen haunting his nightmares. He was on Justin Jefferson today. It was a wind game, so you didn't expect much anyway. You also didn't expect them to win this one. And look, they all but beat Seattle. They should have beaten Seattle. They went into Green Bay's house and beat them. And these are two favorites, two of the top 3 or 4 favorites in the NFC. This is such a strange Vikings team that they can play up to the competition of the best teams in their conference, and yet on paper they're one of the worst teams in their conference, and they get to maybe give Detroit a black eye next week.
Yes, that is up next, but Green Bay is what we got to talk about. Aaron Rodgers, 3 touchdowns, 291 yards, all 3 of them to Davante Adams. Everything, the tractor beam, the gravity pull, whatever you want to say, it's all to Davante. 7 for 53 and 3 touchdowns. Magnifique. Robert Tonyan, 5 for 79 in this contest. Jay Sternberger, 3 for 46. He's getting used more. Jamal Williams, no Aaron Jones. Jamal Williams, 16 for 75, and then 6 for 27 as a receiver. Not much else from anyone else in this one, Bloom, but all Davante all the time is not enough to get the all win.
No, and Aaron Rodgers couldn't either. And there were chances. There were chances for them to get back in this game in the second half. I mean, they were in the game, but to get back, pull even, and they didn't. Minnesota was making some plays without Yannick Ngakoue, and it was a wind game. But Equanimeous St. Brown had a few key drops. Also had one that he caught, so building some confidence there. But it wasn't enough. Aaron Rodgers in the win, still good because it's Davante Adams. Like, that's their goal line running play, just throw it to Adams. He's going to shake his guy. It's so hard to get open in the end zone unless you're Davante Adams. Then it's easy, especially against this Vikings secondary. But, that was it. Robert Tonyan had the biggest play of the day for the passing game, 5 for 79. You'll take that from your tight end. And that's with Jay Sternberger also doing some things here. You also really like seeing Jamal Williams playing so well, showing that all-around game, toughness, finishing his runs. He's making money. There's that counter as he's getting these starts for Aaron Jones and showing what he can do. Although, it's going to be an interesting market out there with James Conner and others. But Jamal Williams making a name for himself. Packers not making a name for themselves. And Thursday Night Football, they go to San Francisco. That was the site of their ignominious exit from the playoffs for the exact same issues that are being exposed in these games against Tampa Bay, against Minnesota. So San Francisco has some of their own problems. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But Green Bay, it's a team that is riding high in their division, you're still thinking about trying to jockey for the one bye, but how can you feel good about this team? They're a flawed team, and I don't know if the people running the team understand how to fix it.
What a perfect segue.
Yeah. Don't get fired, Cecil.
I don't know if the team running it, the people running the team, know how to fix it. There's false narratives. Just ask my buddy Pat Shermer. And those false positives. And then there's, what the hell did I watch? 31-30, Broncos beat the Chargers. Okay, a choke starts with CH and Chargers start with CH. It's not a coincidence. Now, full disclosure and credit to the Denver Broncos for fighting this one, but it looked like it was over at halftime. It looked embarrassing at halftime. And by the way, over at 14-3. You can tell a bad team, Bloom, when it's like 14-3, well within striking distance. And you're like, well, wrap this one up. And then something happened. We'll get to what happened with the Denver Broncos, but let's talk about the Los Angeles Chargers and Justin Herbert, 29 of 43, 278 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 INTs. And the 2 touchdowns, Mike Williams, 5 for 99 and a touch. And stop playing in those leagues that only give you points when you get to 100 yards, please. Keenan Allen, 9 for 67 and a touch. Then Hunter Henry had 4 for 33. Gabe Neighbors had 1 touchdown here as well. And what's interesting to note is, Tremaine Pope, 10 for 67. All right, Justin Jackson, 17 for 89. But Tremaine Pope, former Seahawk. Let's talk about that Seahawks backfield. But first, before we get to that game, we got to talk Chargers-Broncos, which was so bizarre and so weird. And then at the end, when the Chargers needed to put it away, and they were getting a little cute, even in the third quarter, Bloom. And there was a time when they went and they got a field goal instead, but they called like some stupid play on like a 3rd and 2, within field goal range, but, keep the drive going, go for the touchdown. And I think Herbert threw it for the end zone and it was incomplete. And I thought at the time, I was like, that's the type of play that leaves the window open. Because if you just pick up the first down, and maybe you eventually end up getting the field goal anyway, but you use up more time. But you try to go for this touchdown, and it's like, no, keep the drive going. It's a couple of yards. Like, keep the drive going, and you can, kind of put a team away, especially when you have a history of not putting teams away. And guess what happened to the Chargers today? By the way, Justin Herbert still looks fantastic and looks awesome and all those sorts of things. But and they ran the ball, by the way, 210 yards on the ground. And this is what okay, Chargers. And Anthony Lynn, love him to death. Former Denver Bronco, by the way, Anthony Lynn. And love him to death, Bloom, but this is just who he is. So this is how far you're going to go with Anthony Lynn. With a pretty good roster, injuries, whatever, but this is who they are. There's no denying this is who the Chargers are with Anthony Lynn.
Yeah, it's sad because I was hoping for, and a lot of people I think are hoping for the Chargers to make some sort of run, maybe sneak into the playoffs, see what Justin Herbert can do in a wild card game. And it is Anthony Lynn. And it's so fascinating, Cease, because unlike the Falcons, the Falcons became the Falcons really under Dan Quinn. Like this idea that every time anything bad happens when you have a big lead, you think, oh, that's the one that leaves the door open, like you're saying. With the Chargers, this is kind of a tradition going back to Marty Schottenheimer, that has been inherited through the years. And Anthony Lynn, it's got to be something. It's similar with Mike Tomlin. It's similar with Mike McCarthy. There are just coaches out there, I think, when they get a lead, they send off a vibration to their team like, we got this. We're good. They start calling the game like that. And it really causes everyone to relax. You cannot put your gloves down when you're in the ring. And credit to Vic Fangio and the way he has his team prepared, because this has been a common. See, how many times that you've watched a Fangio Broncos team win have they been truly the better team on the field? Like,
never.
Right. I mean, so if they're winning these games, it's because of the fight and the coaching, and at least what's instilled in the players, not because they're just winning on talent. So look at the Chargers. Justin Herbert. It's so much fun to watch him. He goes for it. I mean, he really goes for it. He plays like it's a video game. You see on one hand, Mike Williams making a one-handed touchdown catch on a perfect throw. On another hand, going for Mike Williams, and Bryce Callahan makes a nice interception in the end zone. These are the kind of plays that add up to how you squander a 24-3 lead. And there are 24-3 leads that, like, there's a play here and a play there, and all of a sudden 24-3. And there's 24-3 leads where there's one team that's clearly better than the other team. Everyone tuned out of this game. What? You go back and 31-30? What? As you said, settling for some field goals here. Joshua Kelly by the wayside. He's just not standing out. Mike Purcell, without him, the Broncos' run defense all of a sudden now becomes a weakness. As you said, Troy Maine Pope, almost like a tongue twister there. And Justin Jackson staying healthy and looking good as a receiver, looking good as a runner. You did see Mike, and see, it's a Justin Herbert game, so we got to have one obscure player at least catch a touchdown. Gabe Neighbors this time. You're just making up names now. These can't be actual NFL players catching touchdowns. Yes, they are. So even though the Chargers lost, and even though they put themselves in that true uphill battle position to get into playoff contention, that game against the Raiders next week, that's old school AFL seats. We weren't alive to watch the AFL, but it's going to feel like we're alive to watch the AFL in that one next week.
And some people might think, wait, you guys weren't that old? Oh, okay. Yeah. By the way, that Keenan Allen throw, which was just a little bit off, but it's like, why are you throwing in that play? It was like a trick play, double handoff. Here comes Keenan Allen to make a throw. It's like, you didn't need to do that. You're beating the Broncos handily. Okay, Brandon and everybody.
Yeah.
I thought Vic Fangio got punched in the face at halftime. And when I think that, seriously think that, it kind of shows you, well, what kind of dysfunction was there for the Denver Broncos? I know. PR's rushing. Oh, everything's fine. It's totally fine. Hey, you had Shelby Harris lunge at your head coach last week. And then Fangio comes out at halftime. He usually wears the face shield because he got fined because he's doing the chin mask, the chin diaper thing with the mask. It's like, do you not even know what you're doing and why you're wearing a mask? Anyway, God. Oh, my God. Anyway, so he comes out. He doesn't have the face shield. His glasses are gone. He's got tape over his nose, and there's blood on his sweatshirt. And you're like, oh, my God, this must be the greatest halftime speech ever. And, I mean... I was like, okay, did he bash his head into a wall? Did he get into it with Shermer? You're like, Pat Shermer, you're a moron. Like, what did he do? Because at halftime, they had 60 yards of total offense. And 58 of that was passing yards from Drew Lock, who was 9 of 15 for 58. So here's what happened in the first half, because this is what Pat Shermer does. Pat Shermer goes to Drew Lock all week, rams it into his head, maybe raises his voice, I don't know, and says, you're taking the short stuff. You're only doing the short stuff. You got to watch the short stuff. And Lock was not being, you have to be yourself. And damn it, whatever Lock is going to be, and his chances of hitting and being like a franchise quarterback are very, very low. Everyone should know that, whether you love Lock or hate Lock or are indifferent about the kid. The chances are super, super low. But when you don't let someone be themselves, be yourself, like you don't let someone be himself, and you try to confine him in this Pat Shermer box, talk about a shut your mouth sandwich. So Locke was out there. It was like, he's just looking for, and he was very robotic and dogmatic, like just short and he's confused and he's trying to scramble. He can't ever get to the corner, like ever get to the corner. So it's like, stop doing that, dude. You're athletic, but you're not on that Herbert level athleticism. You're not on that Josh Allen level of athleticism. So, I mean, just looks god awful. Just awful, terrible. Broncos fans are get him out of here and fire Elway and all these sorts of things. And then the second half comes back and Drew Lock, they're in desperation mode. And here's what happened. And I've only watched it once, obviously, when it happened, Bloom. And I'll go over the film again tonight and write about it all night. Why do you think I'm drinking a huge container of cappuccino? Okay, because I'm going to be writing about this all night and hopefully be on Broncos TV tomorrow morning, unless they hear this. Here's what happened. Pat Shermer got out of the way, and you just let Drew Lock play street ball. And now, do coaches like that? No. Does a coach want that, where it's like, you're not going to run my playbook because you don't know the playbook, and you're just going to kind of wing it? No, there's very, very few coaches that would be okay with that. But that's where Locke's at. He doesn't read the full field. He doesn't know all the plays. Shermer even said that last week, that he's got to cut it basically in half for a young quarterback, and that's just being a young quarterback. That's how he tried to spin it. But once Shermer got out of the way, because he just tossed his whole game plan in the air, right? The dinking and dunking wasn't working. Once he got out of the way, then Locke finishes the game with 248 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. Deshaun Hamilton goes 4 for 82 and a touchdown. Jerry Jeudy goes 4 for 73, including a big 43-yarder. So it was almost there, plus 10 targets for Jerry Jeudy. So that's good. Noah Fant, 7 for 47. It was always a hook route. Poor Noah. He'd run like 7 yards, turn around. And I was like, where's the hook and go? I know Noah's not healthy, but where's the hook and go? Albert Okwuegbunam and Bryant Gumbel, God bless him, he tried and they just started calling him Albert O. So that's good. It's Okwuegbunam. It's not that hard. If I can say it, I mispronounce Rita, for the love of Christ. Love you, Lord. Anyway, 1 for 9 and 1 touchdown for Okwuegbunam, including the pass interference at the end. Bloom, which you think they're probably going to let him play, right?
Yeah.
It's 4th down. The game's on the line. The Broncos are in the 20, and they've got to throw it to the end zone. And Locke throws it to Okwuegbunam, who is interfered with, but 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, they just let that play go because it's the end of the game. And if that's not a penalty, Broncos lose. Instead, It is a penalty. So here comes KJ Hamler. He breaks off his route, gets a touchdown from Drew Lock. Broncos celebrate and win. But this all starts with two things. One good, one bad. Well, I guess both good. One that maybe thought of as bad is Pat Shurmur, get the hell out of the way. You're holding this team back. Even though Drew Lock can't run what you want him to run and doesn't know the playbook and doesn't read the field and makes like one read and then panics and wets his pants, like you can't run your system. Pat Shurmur, your system is old, outdated, and pretty much sucks. Number two thing. Philip Lindsay. Oh, I wish I could cuss. Oh, what the F is wrong with you that you have to think? Melvin Gordon had 8 for 26 against his old team and 6 for 21 as a receiver. But all Melvin Gordon does. So one, Pat Shurmur, get out of the way. Two, Melvin Gordon. Shh. You got 16 million. Just shh. You're not that good. Okay. You're below average at best. Philip Lindsay, who's making like 700,000 this year, not 8 million like Melvin Gordon. Philip Lindsay sparks this team. He's so angry. Like I tell everyone every day, he's hate practicing. Who's he hate? Oh, I don't know. Maybe the team that said we draft you and then didn't draft you. And what was it? David Williams, right? Did I get that?
Right.
So irrelevant. I even forget. He was my number 60 running back out of Arkansas. He was like a backup fullback at Arkansas. They take him in the 7th round instead of Philip Lindsay. So maybe the team that didn't draft him, even though they said they would draft him, the team that said we'd look into Philip Lindsay's contract after the year and then went out and signed Melvin Gordon to the 6th highest paid running back, maybe Philip Lindsay's a little mad at that.
Yeah.
But God bless him because he's going out there and he's putting out that energy and he's only touching the ball, 6 times? Right. What was the number today? 6 for 83. Anyway, Bloom.
Yeah.
Let's I will step aside and hopefully still do Broncos TV tomorrow. That's what I think about getting fired from everyone, because like I'm back on the Fan tomorrow and people are like, oh, you didn't get fired. I'm like, the Fan's probably not going to fire me. I have no idea what our social networking policy is because, oh my God, are there stories there, Bloom? Which I'll probably get in trouble just for saying that.
Don't even say that.
Yeah, don't say it. What social networking policy? I don't know. What are you talking about? I don't see a thing. Okay. With the Broncos and Broncos TV that I'm on every week, knock on wood. That's what I'm like. I hope they don't boot me off the show because of this. But it's frustrating watching this team and watching Pat Shurmur mess everything up.
Yeah. And the plays that they came back on were unbelievably easy. I mean, Lindsay breaks through the line and there's nobody even around him. I mean, he houses it. Deshaun Hamilton's long catch and run was just a complete defensive breakdown. And that was beautiful, Cecil. I mean, if you do get ostracized, blacklisted by the Broncos, then really it's just going to be the origin story for the No Holds Barred Broncos podcast that all of Denver wants. And you'll educate a fan base, as you have been doing for a long time. So yeah, Drew Lock, what's an analogy here, Cease? Like, you get in a relationship, it's not going to work out. It's toxic. It's bad for you. It's bad for her, him, too. And then when you're getting close to breaking up,
but you go on that vacation, right? And you have that really good weekend that thinks like, this is how it used to be.
Right.
This is how we could have been. Why can't we be like this all the time?
Yeah. So that's this game, right? 5,700 people booing Drew Lock. And
South Park fans wanted to walk out. They got cut out with every South Park character.
Right.
They wanted to walk out.
Right. And then at the end, it's like, oh, Drew Lock, he did it. 24-3. And I mean, like you said, Cease, I mean, this is him. This is how he's going to play. He's a backup quarterback. He's a backup quarterback that has some great tools and can do some things. Some of this was just the Chargers going into a shell. You did get your Alberto touchdown. You did get your Noah Fant volume. You got Jerry Jeudy making a play, showing that he can do something to contribute. And Super Bowl rematch. Atlanta Falcons coming to Denver next week. Can you say winning streak? No.
Can you say more gray hairs? And it's at Atlanta, by the way.
Oh, backwards. I got that backwards.
Yeah, that's fine. But I was just like, oh, what? Another game I can't go to. Which, again, you want to know the venom? I'll just tell all the truth because it's the truth. What are they going to do? We don't know. To do everything the right way, to treat everyone fairly, and I still treat everyone fairly. It's not that this year happened and now I'm going to treat everyone unfairly, but to do everything the right way for years and years and years and years with the team, to have like a spot in the press room that's yours, which I've worked very, very hard for that, and then to not have tier 2 access, anyone from the fan, but me specifically. And then to not have anyone at the stadium, anyone from the fan, again, one of the biggest sports stations in the country, and not to have me out there at the stadium when I've done everything the right way and I've treated everybody fairly. Like, come on, man. Come on. You're just limiting access to those that will tell the truth that others won't. And all my friends at KOA, and I have good friends at KOA like Big Al. I love Big Al. I'd give my shirt off my back for Big Al because he's done that for me. I remember one year, Bloom, when money was a little tighter, he's like, let me buy your kids Christmas. And this was years and years and years ago. And he just does it not because, he's a zillionaire or whatever, just because that's who he is. Yeah. But all my friends at KOA, you can't say everything that you could say if you were at the fan. And you also know that, 20 times more people listen, whatever the numbers are. Like, come on, we can either talk about this like adults, or we can cover up our eyes again and be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I just work for KOA and I can say whatever I want. No, you can't. You just can't. And your audience is incredibly small. So again, like, are we going to tell the truth or are we going to cover our eyes, Bloom? Anyway, are we done?
I know who wants to cover their eyes.
Saints fans, because you're like, how'd the Bears take us to overtime? 26-23, the final score. Drew Brees coupled of touchdowns, 280 yards passing, 1 touchdown to Jared Cook, 5 for 51, 1 touchdown to Taysom Hill, 2 for 30 and a touchdown. Yay. And then he had 5 for 35 as a rusher. Alvin Kamara, 12 for 67 in this contest. Okay. 9 for 96 as a receiver. That's cool. No Michael Thomas, of course, means Traquan Smith goes 5 for 43. Huh? Okay. And again, it's overtime. The Saints get the win, but Bloom, it's overtime. What happened?
Yeah. The Saints were the better team throughout this one. The mistakes. You get used to watching a Saints game. You get used to penalties at the worst time. You get used to lapses and letting a team stay in the game. But this was also a wind game, Chicago being right there on the Great Lakes. But Drew Brees, his game doesn't really involve much throwing downfield, so he was okay. You saw him throw 1 to Taysom Hill, first one after he had 6 last year, first one this year. Jared Cook, he missed Jared Cook. They did the Tecmo Bowl move, sees where you're on the same play, just the opposite. And it worked. It was good. Yeah. So back to back, you like that. Alvin Kamara. If we're doing fantasy drafts today, okay, maybe Devontae Adams is the number 1 pick, maybe. But certainly Alvin Kamara is running back 1. And he just looks fantastic. Good that he got paid. And that's about it. Those were your 2 fantasy factors, Cook and Kamara, a little bit here and there from Harris and Smith and so on. Will Michael Thomas be back next week? You eke out the win. And, they even drove it down to the 45 of Chicago early in overtime. 4th and 2. Sean Payton doesn't go for it. Huh? With the defense they had and the kind of lapses that they had been having, game in, game out, I don't know about that. So we'll see. Sunday night games, they flex this one to Sunday night, New Orleans and Tampa Bay. That's going to be really, really entertaining.
Very entertaining. Nick Foles was entertaining. 272 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT. Touchdown to Allen Robinson. And man alive, you were like, is he even going to play? And he did. 6 for 87 and a touchdown. Cool. Darnell Mooney coming on more than just a 9-route guy because he's got tons of speed. 5 for 69 and a touch there. Anthony Miller, 8 for 73. All right, they're building something here. Jimmy Graham, 2 for 13. Dave Montgomery, 21 for 89. Sounds about right. Also a couple catches, 16 yards. So the Bears put up a fight. And as our chat room saying, like that defense from Pasito, 725. That defense, yeah. That Bears defense almost got him the win.
Almost making enough plays. I mean, they trailed throughout, and you see Khalil Mack make a play here, Roquan Smith make a play here, Eddie Jackson almost make a play, and Nick Foles sees it's like a magic trick, right? because he plays so badly. Have you seen the T-shirts they wear around Chicago?
Mm-mm.
Mitch, please. He plays so poorly during the game that you start to think, is they're going to go to Trubisky? I mean, at least Trubisky gives them legs. At least Trubisky gives them that element. But then just plays start to happen. Mooney downfield, Robinson downfield, Anthony Miller making some plays in this one. And they hang around. They send it to overtime. And in overtime, they even get that punt. They had a shot and had to punt it back away. So, the same, it's like the Bears are still very much in the hunt, in the thick of it. But at the same time, you watch Nick Foles, and every time you watch him, you think, should he really be a starting quarterback in the NFL? Dave Montgomery had a nice run, the best hole he's seen all year, probably. That really fueled his day. Again, Darnell Mooney, this year's Darius Slayton. Mm-hmm. A guy who you immediately see jump off of the screen with his speed, but there's a lot more there. And I think, Riley Ridley, Javon Wims, these guys are going by the wayside. They have their number 2 outside receiver, even Anthony Miller, who is a slot only, basically. Saints matchup. I mean, that's the thing. Like, going into this one, you thought, on one hand, Saints matchup against the pass, always giving up multiple pass touchdowns, always giving up big plays. On the other hand, Nick Foles. Am I really going to trust Nick Foles? Well, if you played Miller, if you played Robinson, if you played Mooney, it worked out. Not so much Jimmy Graham. He looks a little old and creaky. There was a play that they missed where Graham jump ball position on Marshawn Lattimore, but Foles didn't go that way. So, it's the Bears season in a nutshell. Like, you don't necessarily think they're a good team or a complete team. You don't know about their quarterback, but yet they take a team that we consider at least a decent team, a playoff caliber team, to the brink. They get another team like that, Tennessee, next week.
This week, we get to talk about a great one, though, to wrap up the Week 8 recap here on the Audible. Seahawks 37, 49ers 27. And oh boy, Jimmy G goes out there, throws a pick, 84 yards, out. And then here comes Nick Mullins, goes 238, 2 touchdowns, no INTs. And this one, Seattle had it in the bag early on. And certainly in that third quarter, what was that, 27-7, whatever it was. So 24th quarter points. As Shania would say, that don't impress me much. But here's how it happened. 8 for 91 and a touchdown for Brandon Ayuk. Ross Dwelly gets 1 for 16 and a touchdown. George Kittle gets 2 for 39. Ouchtown population you bro. Kendrick Bourne 8 for 81. Jerick McKinnon 4 for 40 as a receiver, 3 for -1, but a rushing touchdown. Woo! Jermichael Hasty. Maybe you started him. Rushing touchdown, 29 yards. Also a catch for 2 yards. So it's really weird, really bizarre. Tevin Coleman was back, 3 for 20. So you trusted Ayuk, he paid off. Trusted Kittle, he didn't. Trusted McKinnon, he kind of did. He got a touchdown. Started Hasty, crossing your fingers. He got a touchdown. Not much else. It's a weird day. Again, 24th quarter points. So lots of garbage time here for San Fran.
Yeah, I think that's the thing people need to know about this one. Is it wasn't a close game, and you saw Jimmy Garoppolo leave with an ankle injury. So I bet we're going to see Nick Mullins on Thursday night against Green Bay. But as Nick Mullins has shown in the past, even as recently as this year, sometimes he's prone to the big mistake, but he can keep this pass offense viable, at least in garbage time against Seattle. So first, the Seattle matchup wasn't going to pay off. Garbage time helps you out here. San Francisco's defense not really having an answer for DK Metcalf and company. Jermichael Hasty, every time they put someone in front of him, that guy gets hurt. And then someone else comes up the next week, and then that guy gets hurt. And then someone else comes up the next week. Tevin Coleman this week. Tevin Coleman gets hurt. Jerick McKinnon's not hurt, but they're not using him as a runner. They're using him as a receiver. He did get a rushing touchdown, but I would expect against that Green Bay defense we're going to see Hasty, and I don't know what else they're going to do because Coleman was ruled out. George Kittle ruled out after he made an excellent catch. Ross Dwelly getting the touchdown. Should have been Kittle's touchdown. We'll see, again, Thursday. Don't bet against Kittle playing because he's George Kittle, but I bet if he does play, he's playing with something that most would not play with. Ayuk coming through big, and you expected that. That was a chalk play in DFS, but Kendrick Bourne coming through big in garbage time, if you had to use him as a desperation play. And, NFC's coming into focus, which means it's not really in focus at all, right? Because you have Green Bay and Chicago. You have New Orleans and Tampa Bay. You have really all four teams in the NFC West. I mean, yes, Seattle with this win moves into the top seed, but we also know this team is very unbalanced, at least maybe until they get Jamal Adams back. They did get a great game out of Bobby Wagner on defense in this one, so you're starting to turn the corner there. It isn't like Kansas City a couple of years ago where the offense is just dragging the defense to victory, but yeah, it was the offense responsible for this victory, mainly one Russell Wilson.
Our dub is cooking. 4 touchdowns, no INTs, 261. We know no Chris Carson. We also know no Carlos Hyde. Would led you to DJ Dallas. Lots of DJ Dallas questions. What are you going to get? Well, you got 18 for 41. But 1 rushing touchdown. And then there's more. DJ Dallas gets 5 for 17 and a receiving touchdown. So a couple of touchdowns, 60 yards, whatever the number is. Cool. You'll take it. DK Metcalf all day, 12 for 161 and 2 touchdowns. Tyler Lockett, 4 for 33. David Moore, who I think somebody on one of the shows I was watching was like, DJ Moore. I'm like, not everybody's DJ. 3 for 18 and a touchdown. Will Dissly, catch for 17 yards as their tight end questions continue. But no question, Russell Wilson was dealing and was cooking to an easy win.
Easy. So good. See, Russell Wilson is playing so well. It's very similar to Patrick Mahomes. He's playing so well that your brain just completes every play with a perfect play. So you're just not even surprised or impressed when he does it.
Yeah.
It's whenever he doesn't do it that your brain says, that was an incompletion, or he had to slow down to catch that ball. Last week it was Tyler Lockett. This week it's DK Metcalf. And you ride out. You'll take a 5-point game when you can get a 30 or 40-point game. That's what Russell Wilson can create. I think both. See, I don't know if this is precedented in fantasy football. This is like a Chase Stewart kind of question. I think that Metcalf and Lockett are both on pace to be top 5 receivers. See, so we'll say, can an offense support 2 every week fantasy starters? We single out the offenses that have 2 top 25 wide receivers, 2 top 5 receivers. I guess maybe Welker and Moss might have done that. I don't know. Maybe it's more common than I realize. But it's something to behold. And you have DJ Dallas. San Francisco's run defense we have to give some credit to, first of all. But also, you have DJ Dallas and playing in a good offense. So any running back that's competent, switch DJ Dallas and Wayne Gallman. Wayne Gallman would have scored 2 touchdowns today for Seattle.
Right.
Probably not going to score 2 touchdowns tomorrow night against Tampa Bay. Maybe he'll surprise me. The point is, sometimes the running back fantasy value just comes from being running back 1 in that offense. You mentioned David Moore, by the way. Don't sleep on him.
No.
If Lockett or Metcalf get hurt, and both have had their share of injuries in their careers, David Moore, who has chemistry with David Moore's that high upside injury hedge, but just at wide receiver, we're used to talking about running backs in those terms. So this is your class of the NFC right now, as it should be, because I think at this point, more than Aaron Rodgers, as we saw today, you just feel like there's a big mountain to climb to beat Russell Wilson. I know Kyler Murray did it. There are some plays that had to be made. But you just feel like going into any game, especially when we get to January, because that's when things change. Kyler Murray has 0 January experience. Russell Wilson has tons of January experience. They're going to be a tough out. They're going to be a tough team to beat in January, and they're getting these wins that they need to try to make the road to the Super Bowl, go through Seattle. They go through Buffalo next week. That's going to be, again, a very interesting game. NFL starting to shift into focus now, playoff picture, team identities, flaws, strengths. And it's just every week, Cease, it's a feast, It's a feast. And I suppose I also want to say this, I said this morning too, it's Day of the Dead.
Dias de los Muertos.
It's a day for remembrance, for sure. And I think that even when we think about the shoulders that we're all standing on in terms of NFL coverage, all the people that inspired us over the years, and it's winter coming, and it's fall, it's November, it gets exciting, it gets interesting. NFL, so much more on the line. You could really feel it in these games, the Pittsburgh-Baltimore game, these games coming down to the end, players putting a lot of fight in it, and it continues to be unbelievably rewarding. And we should say in a COVID year and under not typical circumstances in any way, the product has been amazing. It's the same old NFL.
Yeah.
It's the same old NFL. And that's something, because now more than ever, we need it to smooth over those rough spots.
Smooth over that rough stuff. By the way, I'll show the viewing audience at home. There's my Lady of Tikal. I drew that on this phone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can't really see it. But, yeah.
I can.
The Dias de los Muertes. So, there you go. Always a great day in my family. I know that. So, just think about family. Remember, and don't forget. Thanks, everyone out there, for listening. Make sure to do all those YouTube things, which means like, comment, share, subscribe, click that notification bell so that you never miss a vid. We love talking about football. We thank you all very much. We dig the fact that so many of you enjoy listening. So thank you all very much as well. He's Sigmund Bloom. I'm Cecil Lammey. We are the Audible. Stay tuned and stay frosty.